word is confident. I want people to know you get your confidence by building off of your strengths. We're influencing forces for a lifetime because somebody is watching. It could be the kid in grammar school. It could be a peer. So the question is, what are you leading?
Elementary school, they had like the little check marks on the report card.
Absolutely.
Mine said, talks too much in class.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. We need for little girls to talk. We need for them to talk. We need for parents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Growth Motivator Live with me, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. I am here today with a powerhouse in the healthcare industry, specifically health information management, also known as HI, Dr. Theresa Jones.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Listen, I have to surround myself with powerful women, risk takers, women who make me get on a train in unknown parts of the country. Listen, for those of you who are wondering, what am I talking about? Dr. Theresa Jones had me on the train in Denver.
Indeed, I did.
And I was like, I'm not getting on this train. Dr. Jones was like, this is the fastest way to get to this airport. We're going to be in traffic, and living in Chicago, we don't want to be in traffic.
No, we don't. And we want to make our flight.
We definitely want to make our flight. After being at a conference for like 3-4 days, you're ready to go home.
It was. And we made it.
We did. I'm going to be honest. I was texting my husband like, I'm on this train. And you know what he said that's funny, which is really powerful? You do things with your AHIMA colleagues that you won't do with me.
Oh, my.
So, like, for example, one year, Mary Bowman had me on this roller coaster. I don't do roller coasters.
I don't either.
See what happens?
Uh-huh. I do.
So today we're going to talk about the art of self-discipline for professional growth. Before we went live, we were talking about, moving the needle forward so that women can get in position to take our rightful place.
Mm-hmm.
I recently saw the Beyonce movie. I'm not a Beyonce fan, let me say this. But it was powerful to see her in action, leading and transforming the lives of people who are working with her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so by just seeing that, I was transformed in the theater.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not a fan, but I think she's an entertainer. I think she's a wonderful entertainer. Mm-hmm. I think she's a wonderful entrepreneur, a boss. Mm-hmm. And she's setting a great example for her children and all of her beehive children. So tell us about how you personally have grown. The last time I saw you, you were not Dr. Jones.
This is true.
So tell us about how you've grown over the last couple of decades.
Wow. Well, as you stated, wasn't a doctor. I am now officially a doctor. But in particular, what you stated complements my experience. I was surrounded by other individuals who had pursued their doctorate degrees, and I was like, I have to do this, and it just kept coming at me left and right. I just kept bumping into people in my workforce that had their doctorate, so I was like, I have to do this. I have to do this. So being around others that are progressing or further ahead than you is an influencing force that'll help you move forward in whatever it is that you want to do in life. It was really quite fascinating to me, but it's like, I know that I have to do this because every place I turn, conferences, at work, people I worked with, doctors, I got to do it.
And you know what? It's funny because I didn't think about how our industry has changed from that perspective. Because I know when I started in 2004 in my doctoral journey, I honestly did not go to become Dr. Campbell. I went because I was teaching at a university, and I was like, how can I make more money? Mm-hmm. They were like, you got to get a doctorate degree or a second master's degree. Mm-hmm. So I got the doctorate degree. But something else you said that I just thought about, I recently published a book, Grow With Me. And the reason I wrote that book was I read Dr. Theresa Jones' book on leadership.
Excellent.
And so after reading her book on leadership, I said, you got to tell your story. What you go through is not for you, it's to help others. And so I read her book, I started on my journey, and as I wrote each and every word, I really let go of some past hurts.
Mm-hmm.
I let go of some past fears. And in that moment of finishing the book, I decided that I was going to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
There you go.
And once I did that, also turning 50 helped too.
Okay.
You know, I turned 50 and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to move into the preferment stage of my life
There
where
you
I'm
go.
only going to do what I prefer to do. And that's it.
Excellent.
And it's been amazing.
I'm sure it has. It sounds wonderful.
It's a great place to be. It's
It's an
not
excellent place,
retirement, it's
right?
preferment.
It's an excellent place to be. That's where we all need to be.
Absolutely.
We all need to be there. And it's interesting you bring up Dr. Theresa Jones' name because I too have read her book. I've worked with her. She's been a mentor. She was actually on my committee for my doctorate. She's very powerful and she provides the platform for growth. She provides the platform for growth. So that book, Leadership, is an excellent read for anyone in any industry, not just HIM, but anyone in any industry that wants to excel. They will learn a lot. They will
You
learn
know
a lot.
what? One of the chapters, and I mean, I read that book so many times because I taught a class with the
Mm-hmm.
book,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a chapter on emotional intelligence
Mm-hmm.
that really just touched the nerve from my head to my feet. I realized that one of the reasons that I have been successful in life
Mm-hmm.
is because of emotional intelligence. I got a 14. One of my ACT scores was a 14,
Okay.
and then overall was probably like a 19. And for a long time, I didn't think I was smart enough
Mm-hmm.
to go to college, let alone become Dr. Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that, you know, having an IQ doesn't mean anything if you can't interact with other people. But it's bigger than that, right? Everything I do is not about me. It's about giving others a platform to have a voice, letting others know it's okay to use your voice.
Mm-hmm.
One of our other colleagues, Dr. Nisa Jenkins,
Mm-hmm.
just released a book called Speak Up, I Can't Hear You.
Excellent.
The voice of a woman.
Excellent.
And in that book, she talked about how a lot of times we don't use our voice. And if you don't use your voice, you lose your voice. And, you know, people talk a lot about, oh, I got to get a seat at the table. No, you need to bring your own table. And when you get in the room, tell imposter syndrome to hang out at the door. You'll pick it back up. Maybe you'll leave it there, but be in the room and embrace wherever you walk in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Quite powerful. Yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about. It's like people have to become comfortable in their skin and know that they are enough and just basically work their strengths so that they can bring their own table and they'll have a voice. That's part of what the problem has been. I think for women at large, we've kind of been in a position that hasn't been a comfortable position, but yet a position that we pretty much so accepted because we weren't heard or we weren't being allowed to be heard. But once you take the position that you do have a voice and you exercise your voice, you're contributing to the advancement of women. It's when you don't use your voice that we don't excel. And again, it has been at a snail's pace over time, since the beginning of time, likely. But it's essential if we want to grow, if we want to grow as women collectively, individually, if we want to help progress the world at large. I mean, it really takes a collaborative effort between men and women. So women have to have a voice. There are actually research studies that I read that show that you need the voice of both sides. You need men and you need women. Men are out there. It's like, come on, women, we got to come out here too. If we come together, we get to the greater good.
You know, it's funny you said something that just made me think about. I was teaching a graduate course on campus. Imagine that, back on campus teaching a class. I'm not teaching coding, but this was a leadership class, and there were 4 women, 1 man in the course, in the class. And I made a comment, and I wanted to see if he would agree. I said, men will be in a meeting and will be very confident about the statement that they are making, even if it's wrong. They confident about saying it. Whereas women, We could be 100% correct, have all the empirical data to back it up, and be afraid to say something, afraid to use our voice.
Right. The key word is confidence. It's very critical that women are confident in order to be heard. And no, you don't have to have all the answers. You just simply have to be confident. I mean, if you can come to a table and when you bring your table with confidence, you're going to progress. But as you stated, you can come to the table, know everything, but not have that confidence. It's likely not going to go anywhere. So that's one of the things that individuals at large have to come to the realization of, is that it's essential to have confidence. How do you get the confidence? That's really the question. And the one thing I want people to know, you get your confidence by building off of your strengths. Your strength, whatever your strength is, that's going to help you build your confidence. So don't worry about what you perceive to be flaws or incorrect, because they're imposters, as you stated earlier. Just focus in on your strengths and let your strengths lead you. Let your strengths lead you, and you'll excel. And again, yeah, you're right. They come to the table confident. Like women can do it too. We just have
Absolutely.
to understand that we have a voice. We have an important voice. It's a necessary voice in the interest of the greater good for men and women. Bring it.
Bring it every day, all day.
That's it. That's all.
You know, one of our topics, or the title of this episode, is about self discipline
Mm-hmm.
that supports personal growth. I think it also supports professional growth. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I do is I'm constantly reading.
Good.
I'm learning faster than I'm growing. So
Mm-hmm.
when I get to the place where I'm headed, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm confident in my ability to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
I may not know all the things, but I know a lot of the things, and I lean on those to keep me grounded and carry me to the next level.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, learning is essential, whether it's formal or informal, as it relates to our growth. So, one of the things that we, again, have to, in my opinion, I should say, have to take into consideration is that we're continuously learning. The question is, what are we learning? And if you want to progress, then you're going to be strategic in what it is that you're going to learn by surrounding yourself by individuals who are smarter than you, for one. Another one is going back to school despite your age. I got my doctorate late in life. It's like some people ask me why. I say, why not? I'm learning. I'm
That's a
continuous.
limiting belief
Right,
about
right,
age.
right. It's like I'm learning and I want to continue to learn. The moment I stop learning, I would be concerned about my own progression, my own well being, my own health, because learning keeps us relevant, learning keeps us healthy, learning helps us to continue to be influencing forces for the progression of those who are behind us. As you stated earlier, we can owe it to those who did what they did in order for us to be where we are. Well, we have an obligation and responsibility for those who are following us. We have to continue to excel so that they will have that model, which is critical, that they too can excel. The absence of the model is an influencing force in terms of why we don't progress. So we have to do this in the interest of not only self, but others.
I love it. And you know something that I'm always reminded of? We are all born with unique gifts and talents.
Absolutely.
And you are responsible for cultivating those gifts and talents.
Absolutely.
And when you do that, you may not see the benefits immediately,
Mm-hmm.
but if you keep planting those seeds in the ground,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to reap a harvest
Absolutely.
way bigger than you could have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm. And you need to be aware of the fact that though you may not realize it, you are being watched. And that impact may not surface until 10 or 20 years later when they bring it to the surface. It's like, well, I saw you do this, so I decided I was going to follow your path and do it myself. It's really remarkable. It's quite remarkable. It's like if we would just continue to focus on that which is essential, which is progression, then we're influencing forces for a lifetime because somebody is watching. It could be the kid in grammar school. It could be a peer. Either way it goes, someone is watching. So the question is, what are you leading?
Mm,
What are you leading?
that's powerful. That's so powerful. One of the things that I said this last year, I'm going to continue to say it. One of the things I love about being able to sit down with professionals, individuals from all walks of life, is that every time we have a conversation, the conversation helps me. And that's because I'm constantly thinking about what's Dr. Lisa Campbell 5.1 going to be? And I hold that close to my chest, and I just keep growing and growing and growing. And my grandfather, December 2023, 103.
Nice.
And I think about all the sacrifices that his generation made, the generation before him. I owe it to them to be the best Campbell that I can be. And I'll tell you, for a long time, after I got my doctorate degree, I was not owning being Dr. Campbell. And my husband said to me, "You worked for that." And so now here we are, 2024. I trademarked my name, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, because I'm owning who I am.
Excellent.
But also, I realize that people are watching. Someone said to me, the reason that I'm getting my doctorate degree is because of you. I didn't know you during your journey, but I said, she can do it. She did it. I can do it too.
Absolutely. And that is exactly how it goes. That's exactly how it goes. So people need to be conscious of what it is that they do. They need to be conscious of what it is that they say, simply because they are being watched. And it's not as if that's not a bad thing at all. That's an excellent thing, actually. That's an excellent thing. It's just that people have to stay in tune with that concept so that we can continue to make life better for us all. Again, those who are behind us are watching us. Those who are with us are watching us. Those who came before us are watching us. So it's like, let's do the right thing. Let's do the best thing. Be the best person we can in all that we do, in the interest of not only self, but in the interest of others. One of the things that comes to my mind sometimes, and it just recently came to my mind today in this dialogue. I think about one time one of my great nephews came by the house. I was exhausted. I was like totally exhausted. But he came by the house, and he couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 at that time. His parents were with him. I was not expecting him. I really just wanted to rest at that moment. But he came. And it hit me at that precise moment in time that I had a responsibility and obligation to change, because I didn't want him to have a misconception about my excitement to see him. It's like, I'm tired, but I can't project being tired because he might think that I'm not happy to see him. So all of a sudden, I got super excited. I got really excited. And he saw that, and this big smile popped up on his face because he knew that I was excited. Point being, what we communicate, what we think we're communicating and what we're actually communicating need to be in sync, and they need to be positive, because we're always being watched. It's not only what we say, it's how we say it, it's how we look. It's like, we cannot afford to be comfortable unless you're in a room by yourself with 4 walls. If at that point in time you want to not communicate and communicate effectively, or communicate and communicate in a positive manner, that's your choice. It's like, you can do that in those 4 walls by yourself. But once you're outside of those 4 walls, or once there's somebody else in the room with you in those 4 walls, you have responsibility and obligation to do your best, present your best, speak your best.
I want to tell you something that you probably don't know, and I talked about this in the book. I think I probably was about 22. Might have been 20. I don't remember at this point. As you get older, you kind of forget the things, the order that they happen. You remember that they happen. But there was one point in my life when I decided that I no longer wanted to be here.
Okay.
And so I took 30 Tylenol.
Okay.
I found myself in a room, 4 walls. And it was during that time period that I realized that, number one, I don't need to be in that room by myself. But number two, I realized that the better part of my life was ahead of me, and I could not be concerned with what I was dealing with. I was hurting. When you are a mother children don't come with a user's manual. And I was struggling with the fact that I was a single mother with a special needs daughter who couldn't hear, who couldn't speak. Mm-hmm. And I allowed the situation to make me a victim to honestly what God had given to me. He gave her to me for a reason. Mm-hmm. And so I sat in that room and realized that enough was enough. I was not going to be held hostage by her diagnoses. Mm-hmm. And it was that point that allowed me to transform my life. And I have not looked back. And I think about the fact 2024, she'll be 32. 32 years later, we individually and collectively have grown so much. And I attribute that to really having some self-discipline. I think about growing up in a household, older grandparents born in the 20s, you were seen
and not heard.
and not heard. But I also realized the value of listening and learning. It allowed me to grow. Mm-hmm. But I also realized that my voice was powerful. And according to my family, I've been using this voice for a very long time. You remember in elementary school, they had like the little check marks on the report card?
Absolutely.
Mine said, talks too much in class.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because you weren't talking too much in class. What you want, what instructors, educators need to do is allow you to talk in class. Because what happens is if they don't allow it, it becomes mute. It becomes mute. And that's the experience of too many women in particular. It's like, it's better for us to be quiet than to have that voice. There you go. There you go. It's like, no. We need for little girls to talk. We need for them to talk. We need for parents. And I've never been a parent, so don't.
But you got nieces and nephews.
I do.
You don't have to give birth to understand the experience.
I do. But it's like, children like to talk. It's like, you gotta let them talk. You have to hear them. You have to let them speak. Even if sometimes they're speaking and it's not necessarily acceptable, for the lack of a better term right now. Meaning that they're upset with something and they don't say it correctly, or they don't say it in a manner that's acceptable for society. It's like, you have to help them to learn how to get their voice out there. But what you don't want to do is shut their voice down. You don't want to shut their voice down. You have to help guide them with their voice so that when they do become older and become adults, they can speak and communicate in an efficient and effective manner versus becoming mute and not saying anything. And that happens to too many of us. As individuals. And it's not unique to just girls. I'm sure it happens with boys too. But I can only speak from the woman's perspective in terms of that journey, because that's me. And I know how, as you would know how, what a woman's experience has been from a girl to being a woman. It's like, we become mute when you start talking about boys versus girls, and we push the boys, and I get that. I'm not saying don't push, but it's like girls need to be heard too. And I told one of my nieces with her daughter and whatnot, I said, yeah, let her get her voice out. It's like, help her to get
express
her voice
herself.
Out. Right, exactly. It's like, help her to do that, because she's going to find herself in a position at some point in time, likely in her journey, where somebody's going to try to not allow her to express herself. But she'll have that seed planted that, no, this is okay. I'm going to put my voice out here. And will there be a risk associated with it? Probably. But it's all about progression. We have to take the risk, and we have to make life better for those who are coming behind us.
And I think what you're talking about is mindset. Mm-hmm. I talk a lot about having a growth mindset, because I believe a fixed mindset holds us back.
It does.
And so when we don't allow people to express themselves, it's really your own limiting belief where you're like, oh, they talk too much.
Yep, exactly.
Sometimes people are speaking because they're hurting, and getting it off their chest is setting them free.
Agreed.
So even if you're like, like something is wrong with them.
Hmm.
Just let them
Let
say
them.
it.
That's it. Let them put it out there. Hear them. Let them know that they're being heard. This shows them that they're very important because you're taking the time to listen to them. That's essential for any and all of us. It's essential for any and all of us. Otherwise, what happens is that illusion comes into play, and we think that we're not valuable, and we think that we're not enough, and we don't progress. We don't progress. That's an illusion. That's an illusion. So people at large want to be conscious of who's saying what to them and being able to determine whether or not it's valuable or not. Because there's always going to be somebody that's going to say something at some point in time in everyone's journey that's going to be a setback. But then you're going to always have someone in your life who's going to be pushing you forward. And we have to choose what we're going to listen to. We have to choose what we're going to listen to. And hopefully more and more over the course of time, people will learn that, yeah, well, if it's constructive criticism, you need to pay attention. But if it's hurtful and harmful, no, you need to understand that that's an illusion. That's somebody else's stuff that's being projected at you. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. However, if you take it on, it becomes embedded in you and part of you and slows you up, which you don't need because it's all about progression.
I love it. I love it. Well, it has been amazing having this opportunity to chat with you. We're not on the train. I'm not scared. I don't get on the train in Chicago either.
It's okay.
I will get on the Metro train to go to the Bears game.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, I'm definitely. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm definitely a neighborhood girl. Like maybe go around this corner and that corner. I don't even venture out at home.
Okay.
And probably because I'm spending so much time learning and growing that when I do leave the house, I like to have a trip that requires a passport. Then I'm excited.
I understand that. But there's one more train you have to try.
Uh-oh.
It's called the Bullet. I'm gonna try that train one day.
What is that?
It's a train from, I think it takes you from London to Paris.
In another country?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's called the Bullet.
Okay.
So when I think about having that trip, I'm gonna give you a call and say we got another train ride to do.
Okay, well, I want you to record yourself on that train, and then we gonna Photoshop me into the picture. I tell people all the time, again, just talking about discipline. I don't know if it's discipline. I don't know if it's scariness. But when I travel for business, I go from the airport to the hotel to the hospital and reverse.
Okay.
I don't venture out.
No.
Now, I will venture out for a Starbucks because I got to have my hot tea. But other than that, I don't venture out. So I think that's one thing in 2024 that I'm going to really commit to doing something that I would not ordinarily do.
Good. That'll be growth.
Yes, that will be growth. And I seek growth every single day. Every day I wake up and I put my 2 feet on the bed, on the floor. I'm thankful for being able to do that. And then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do today?
There you go. Discovery.
Yes.
It's all about growth.
Well, do you have any parting words for our listening, viewing audience?
Be your authentic self. Know that you are enough. Work your strengths.
Ooh, you know what? After that, this has been Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator, with another episode of the Growth Motivator Live. Until next time.